Well, good afternoon, Bob.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me today on Michelle's Conversations That Matter.
Absolutely. Likewise. I appreciate the opportunity.
I'm so excited I got to meet you through the remarkable Joe Ingram. I'm so honored that he would connect me to remarkable people like you and others. And that when I reached out to you, we had a really cool connection when we first met and just got to know each other, and that you were open to joining me and sharing your story of adversity today. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, Joe's a great guy.
He is a funny dude too. Makes me laugh all the time on his social media posts. So what I'm out to do with my series, Michelle's Conversations That Matter, is really just elevate the conversation about mental health. That's something that you and I both have in common. We care deeply about, and to educate people about mental illness, to empower them and maybe inspire them. Ultimately, we have a stigma that I'm looking to do my part to remove so more people get care. So what I do professionally is I work with organizations to cultivate compassion in their workplace and teach resilience and other tools to their employees, especially now during COVID. So we are going to dive in and talk about the price we've paid to be who we are today, adversity. And you have had certainly your own journey with adversity that I'm excited to have my audience hear from, because nowadays during COVID, there's a lot of challenge and a lot of adversity that we're all trying to just navigate. So hopefully they glean some hope from our conversation. Before we dive in, can you take a moment, Bob, let us know who you are, where you live, and what you do for a living?
Yeah, I live kind of in Idaho and California. I kind of go back and forth, but then I also travel throughout the United States in a van. And so I get the opportunity to really see a lot and meet a lot of great people along the way. I was born in Oklahoma, moved to California when I was 2, lived in California most of my life. And, it's one of those things where as you're growing up, you don't realize you don't know what you don't know. And so I was given some opportunities early on to really connect and learn how to connect with people at a very deep level through moving I went to over 20 different schools, 6 of them being 6 different high schools. So, really taught me a lot about how to connect with somebody quickly, and how do you determine who's an adversary versus a friend. Mm-hmm. So that was really probably monumental in my life at that point, early on growing up.
So what is this title, human behaviorist? Tell us about that.
Yeah. At age 15, my mom was diagnosed with cancer and she was given 6 months to live. And during that time, I remember just being I don't remember where I was or anything, but I remember this gentleman coming up to me and he was talking to me and he said, "Hey, Bob, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And I'm 15 and he's I don't know, he's probably in his 40s. And I said, "Well, I don't really know. But why are you asking a 15-year-old this?" In my mind, I'm thinking, well, that's kind of an odd question to ask a 15-year-old. And he says, "Well, because you can learn a product or service or an industry, or you can learn something that drives every product, service, or industry." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Human behavior. If you understand why people do or don't do certain things, you'll be successful in whatever field you're in." And I said, "Sign me up." Kind of facetiously, right? Mm-hmm. And he says, "Well, go become a peer counselor at your school when school starts back." And I'm like, "Okay." And so I just became a peer counselor. And as I started studying human behavior, I started realizing that was my life passion. I mean, not only my passion, but more so importantly, my calling. Mm-hmm. I really began to realize that I needed to understand why people do the things they do, including myself. I mean, look, as a human behaviorist, the first thing I got to look at is me. Why do I do or don't do certain things? Mm-hmm. But as I started doing that as a peer counselor, I was like, this is really kind of cool. I really enjoy the process of learning, and I really enjoy the process of understanding at a deeper level just why somebody does something or doesn't do it. After that, at age 19, I founded a nonprofit organization working with suicide prevention and crisis management or crisis intervention. And the whole reason was that because as a peer counselor, I was put in these situations. During that time, I was like, well, this is really kind of cool. And at 19, I was very blessed. I had a gentleman that really breathed into me, as hopefully you guys all do too, because it's so important to have these mentors in your life. And as he was an attorney for a a young man that I was just kind of impromptu working with, just kind of it was no nonprofit, no nothing yet. And one day he says, "Hey, Bob, you need to play a bigger game." And I'm like, what does that look like? He says, "I think you need to start a 501c3 nonprofit. I think you need to put together a board of directors. I think you need to start traveling around speaking and raising money." And I'm like, whoa.
19.
I'm 19. Remember this? But the guy was just such a great guy, and just an amazing human being. And he and his wife, and just really breathed and believed in me a lot in a time when maybe I didn't have the same belief level, or I know I didn't have the same belief level. And that's where it really started. I put together a board of directors, psychologist, psychiatrist, marriage, family therapist, sergeant of narcotics for LA County PD, a couple of authors, just some great people. And one of the greatest things was the board of directors that I created, the psychologist, psychiatrist, marriage, family therapist. They all had an agreement that they would donate services to anyone I wanted, parents or the kids, on a condition. And that condition was that I had to be willing to sit in on every session that they gave away. And so talk about for 5 years of the training and the learning and the education that I got from that, the real hands-on experience was amazing. And I'm forever indebted to those people. They're amazing people.
Wait, you told me in our pre-interview that you sat in on how many sessions throughout that?
Probably over 300.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that's amazing. You probably learned a ton through that.
Yeah, I was really blessed. I had several years later, I had a gentleman who was a USC professor in mental health and psychology, and he said, "Your education's better than mine," and we kind of joked about it. But when you think about it, you get to sit in. While other people are spending so much time in class, I'm sitting in listening to these experts. These guys have been doing it for 20 and 30 years, and it was a life-changing experience, and I was very, very blessed.
I love it. And, I think your pivotal moment there is the mentor who said to you, the attorney, that you need to play a bigger game, right?
Huge. And I think, it's something you and I talked about a little bit, and I think we both agree on, that we have to give people a vision. The Bible even talks about without a vision, people perish. We have to give people something that they can pursue or go towards. Maybe not pursue is the right word, but go towards. And what he did was he created a bigger vision for me and said, "Now here's what you need to do. Here's why. And then here's how." And then it was up to me. And it was amazing. One of the best things that I learned right then was borrowed credibility, because what he said to me, he says, "You need to start a board of directors." I said, who's gonna say I'll put my name behind a 19-year-old kid? Yeah. And he says, "Well, if you have an attorney on your board of directors, you'll find other professionals that are willing to do it. They'll feel safe, and I'll be the attorney." I was like, "Wow, that's huge." So belief, then borrowed that credibility. And how he taught me was, he says, "I want you to call, some of the friends that that have dads that are experts in mental health or in law enforcement or whatever." He says, "Call them. And here's what I want you to say." And he told me exactly what to say. And he says, "I'm putting together a board of directors based on some experience that I have, and I've got an attorney on the board of directors, and he recommended that I call you, and here's his name." And all of a sudden, they all said yes. I mean, 7 days, they all 7 of them said yes. And it had nothing to do with me. They may have known me. They may have known me through their kids or something, but they didn't really know me. Mm-hmm. But because of that borrowed credibility, absolutely life-changing.
So do you have a mentor in your life to this day? I mean, I wanted to talk about the importance of having people like that who are always pushing you to see a bigger vision than you can see.
Yeah, I have so many mentors that I call mentors. I mean, some of them are deceased. Some of them are, people I've never even met, but they've mentored me through their books or their audios or whatever. But I have several mentors that I'm with at any time. I have several coaches that I believe are my coaches. And some of them for different times of life, and some of them for different reasons. But yeah, I think that having those coaches, paid for and unpaid for, I think those mentors and coaches are invaluable to helping you get where you want to be. And one of the next level pillars I teach is that every next level demands a different you, and it doesn't request it and doesn't say, "Hey, it's a good suggestion." It's going to demand a different you to get to that next level, personally or professionally. And so I believe that mentors are the key, the absolute key in order to do that.
And I think too, mentors have a way to be able to see your potential, just like the attorney did for you, to say, you're capable of more, step into that. Like even if you can't see it, that would keep you small. I'm here to remind you that you are capable. They see you for your potential.
Yeah, definitely. If you look at a football analogy, Joe Montana, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, and you've got Bill Walsh as coach. Bill Walsh never played quarterback or football at the level that Joe Montana did, but he could see the field differently than Joe Montana, and that's why Joe Montana would be willing to listen to him. He didn't expect him to play at the same level. What he expected him to do is have a broader understanding. And I think that that's where a great coach comes in, or a great mentor comes in. They just see the field differently that you're playing on, and they can give some insights that maybe you can't see from behind the big lineman in front of you.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I'm part of this really powerful mastermind, and all of these people see me for my potential, just like you were seen for your potential. Yeah. And I think that matters so much when it comes to shifting your mindset, because mindset is so important when we want to sort of break into a different dimension, like your next level. I mean, if we want to get to someplace else, we have to first be able to visualize that that we're capable of doing it.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So we're here to talk about adversity. So people are probably like, well, okay, so this is all well and good, but like, what adversity? So talk to us about some of the adversity that you've overcome, because I have to tell you that when we first met, I was blown away by what you've lived through and what you've endured. So could you share with the audience sort of what you've overcome, what you've, dealt with?
Sure. And I share it in a matter of fact that this is what I've gone through. It doesn't mean it's any worse or better than what you've gone through. So when I share this, please understand that I don't say this for sympathy. I don't say it for, all I say is these are my experiences, and you've probably had some far worse and far greater and some easier. But the experience that I had through at 15, I was hit by a drunk driver on a motorcycle, put in a wheelchair, put in a coma for 3 days, in a wheelchair for 7 weeks. That was at the time my mom was dying. My mom died when I was a senior in high school, and from cancer. And then shortly after there, not too far after that, the only parent that I really, the only father figure I ever had, because I never had a father, didn't know anything about my real biological, was a family friend, and he died of a drug overdose. And then fast forward a little bit, my daughter was killed in a car accident that I witnessed. I was following her in a car behind her, and she was killed in a car accident. Then my brother committed suicide, and my older brother, who was 10 years older than me, so he was probably the closest thing to a father figure other than that family friend. And then the most recent was about 7 years ago, that my granddaughter died of SIDS before I even got a chance to meet her, 2 months old. So, I've been a child losing a parent. I've been a parent losing a child. I've been a sibling losing a sibling, and I've been a grandparent losing a grandchild. And I say all that to say that I understand loss. I get it. And no matter what kind of loss, whether it's your job, I've had businesses that succeed, businesses that have failed. I've had great incomes and poor incomes. I mean, guys, I can tell you, I've experienced so much that I can identify with almost anybody. And here's the thing that I've walked away with is it's the price that I've paid to be who I am today. And so I can either look at it as a price paid. And when you look at a price paid, you just go, well, okay, I've paid, I've made an expense, and there's no ROI on that. But when you look at it as an investment, which I do, every life experience is an investment. And I say, what's my ROI? What's my return on investment on this? And so whether it's the death of my daughter, or the death of my brother, or my mom, or whatever it is, I look and say, what's the ROI? And it was a process, folks. It was not something that I just woke up and said, okay, now I know what the ROI is. I put myself through a process. And I think that's the biggest difference. I think a lot of times people are teaching theory. People are teaching stuff that they've learned in books or whatever. I think the biggest difference I'm talking about the things that I've literally put the work in, made myself do the work to get to the point where I can get an ROI from it.
It's amazing. And along the way, you've started how many small businesses or you've been an entrepreneur of multiple companies. Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, again, I was very blessed. I had some great people. I mean, I've started different businesses for different reasons. I had the father friend of the family. He was an entrepreneur. My brother was an entrepreneur, and they were always starting businesses. And I remember one of the coolest things that this family friend of mine did was he always started businesses that he knew his kids would enjoy. So there was times when he started a go-kart track. There were times when he started selling mini bikes. There were times when he started manufacturing and selling skateboards. And he always did these things because he knew that we all liked those things. So he did them, and it was just a blast. And so I kind of incorporated that. Like, what are the things I really like doing? I had a little coffee distribution business. I had a race car promotion company that we did little portable race cars that we did at big events. Mm-hmm. I did a marketing company. We did about probably $3.5 million a year in sales and business. It was just stuff that I either enjoyed doing or because somebody had said, "Hey, Bob, you should try this out. Have a great time." And so I did that. But I've taken a lot of jobs in between those, mm-hmm. just kind of, fill the bill. But here's the primary thing. We talked about intention. The biggest intention for me ever taking a job, I don't care what it was. The intention was, what can I learn about human behavior in this environment? Mm. So, talking to a tractor, a guy who sells construction equipment, what can I learn about human behavior in that environment versus the environment of, this promotion company or the environment of an insurance agent or whatever it is? It was always fascinating to me because human behavior is human behavior, but there's so many variables to it. People always say, "Bob, how do you know when somebody's going to commit suicide? Bob, how do you know these things?" Like, you don't. But I can tell you there's indicators and there's signals that you can look for. And then what you do is you apply those. The great statement, success leaves clues. If I ever find out who exactly said that, because there's so many different people attribute it, I'll say it. But I did not originate that. I do not claim it. But success does leave clues. Yeah. So let's look at that and then decide what we're going to do.
Now I think it's a very interesting time that we're living in. COVID has forced a lot of people to take inventory of their lives, of what matters, of what gets them excited. You've said a couple of things that I really want to zero in on. The one is choosing something that you love. It's absolutely possible to choose something that you love, that you're going to get enjoyment from and make a living. And I think, the fact that that's what you did and you always had a target to what could you learn, I think is great. But as people start to reinvent themselves or have to hurdle over some of the adversity, whether it's job loss of a loved one, what words of advice do you have for them who maybe are just trying to figure it out?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I did was I found things that I loved, right? But I didn't realize the overarching theme was that I didn't love tractors. What I loved was the people that were driving the tractors. What I loved was the artistry of what they did, or the grit and determination that somebody had. So I think we have to look beyond the passion, and the passion has to be an overarching thing, and then we can find different ways to fulfill that passion. So I just want to be careful that I don't believe that all the time we're going to be doing things that we're totally passionate about. But I think if you're in that place right now, and look, many of us are, there's times when we're going to be struggling in this, even in this marketplace, or even in this phase of life right now. I don't care how old you are. There's going to be these times, there's ups and downs. There's going to be these times people are always looking for this balanced life. I say balance is a flat line. No doctor will suggest flat line.
No.
So, I'm a big believer that right now is probably a great time to look at what your core values are, what your core beliefs are, and then say, okay, what are things that I can do right now that are congruent with those core values and beliefs? And I think a lot of times people just start scrambling. They're like, I got to do this. And I think one of the biggest things we can do is sit down and evaluate. So if you haven't sat down and just evaluated your life, just really evaluate, like, hey, what's important to me, and at the end of everything, what's the one thing that's most important to me? And then what are the values that I'm going to need to align myself with in order to get to that place? It boils down to intention. It boils down to having a solid base, and that base is going to be your peer group. That base is going to be your mentors. That base is going to be those people that you say, hey, look, I don't know everything. Please breathe into me. And I promise I will shut up and I will listen and I will apply. I think that's one of the biggest things that we can right now is being still, just being still, and just saying, here's where I'm at right now, and being honest with ourselves. I think one of the biggest things that we're not very honest with ourselves a lot of times. And to the good or the bad, we either beat ourselves up continuously and we don't give ourselves any credit, or we're not honest with ourselves in the point that we actually say, I don't know everything. And, I draw a whiteboard in my old house. I put this whiteboard in the whiteboard. I would say in my class, I say, who do you, out of all the knowledge in a certain area of your life, out of all the knowledge in sales or all the knowledge in marketing, how much of this, if the whiteboard represented all of it, how much of that do you really think like you've mastered? And almost every time somebody will go, a dot. And I'll go, then why do you keep going back to the dot to learn more?
Yeah.
You already know that. So what I approach things is look, I don't know everything. So I'm going to ask questions of things I don't know about. And I'm going to keep going back to the things I don't know about, because that's where I'm going to get greater understanding, great learning. Right now, surrounding yourself with people, right now, understanding, just being willing to learn. Right. Guys, you have so many people that will breathe into you if they understand your willingness to learn. I had a gentleman, I was driving down the street and he was driving a Rolls Royce. I was driving a little Hyundai Excel. I pulled up next to him and, we just kind of looked at each other and we drove to the next stoplight. I rolled down my window and he rolled down his. I said, sir, can I buy you lunch sometime? And he says, why? And I said, clearly you've done something I haven't at this point. I would love to learn. He said, pull over. I pulled over, make a long story short, pulled over. He says, get in the car. I go, okay, got in this car. We drove around. He showed me all these properties he bought, came over here from the Middle East, bought one person at a time, brought family members over, amassed a fortune. And we're driving around and we sit down and have lunch. And he says, why would you get into a stranger's car? And I said, because I wanted to learn. And I said, well, what a better question for you. And he goes, what's that? I said, why would you let a stranger into your car? And he said, for the same reason, because you wanted to learn. He goes, Bob, I've been here many years. I've amassed a fortune. He goes, but I can name on one hand the number of people that have said, would you teach me what you know versus would you give me what you have? Would you teach me what you know versus would you give me what you have? And he says, anybody who says that they want to learn, I'm all in. And that guy's name was Luke Thodem, an amazing guy, Thodem Properties, amazing human being. And, I think that's the key is surrounding yourself with people that want to breathe into you. But the only way you're going to get those people is to show them that you're willing to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's such rich sharing that you just gave us. Thank you. I think about the people who are in your ear too, reflecting on who are the 5 people that you are surrounded by. I know we see this in memes and quotes all over, but truly it's the people who are in your ear. What are the messages that they're feeding you? And are they draining you or are they pouring into you? Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have a big pillar that says that if somebody is taking more than if somebody is taking more from you and it's draining you, it's time to replace that. Yeah. I'm a big believer that we should be giving and we should be receiving. And a lot of times we're great at one, but not great at the other. I think we have to master the art of being great at both. Yeah.
I have a mentor that I met because I'm fairly new to being an entrepreneur. So it's a lot like trying to figure out a maze that you have never endured in your life. So I got myself a mentor coach.
Good.
And there were 2 things that he said to me. He's like, you need to reflect on who are the 5 people that you're listening to and consider maybe you need to be surrounded by others. Yeah. And you also need to be looking at your mindset. And if your mindset is that I can't do it, I'm going to fail, you're doomed. So those are the two things that we focused on: mindset and who I was surrounded by. And I met people like Joe Ingram because of it. And I'm really grateful because I need to be surrounded by people who are as enthusiastic about being a successful entrepreneur as I am, more importantly.
Absolutely. And more successful in different things, right?
Sure.
So with Next Level by Association, which is a company I founded, or a division I founded 11 years ago, going in our 11th year, that was created, and Joe's a founding member of that. He became a member on the second month or third month that I started it. That was all, how do we create an intentional peer group? If we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most amount of time with, how do we create an intentional 5? So these people that we've selected, that we've actually gone out and saw. So we created a criteria and said, these are the people that we want to surround ourselves with. Mm-hmm. And then we developed that. So we've met once a month for dinner for the last, going in our 11th year. But obviously this last year we couldn't do it. So we've been doing it virtually for almost 2 years. But it's every week. We do a Monday morning at 10 o'clock. And it's those people that have chosen to be part of that group. And it's just a great opportunity to reconnect and bring somebody like yourself, or bring somebody like a Jarek Robbins or a Gary Goldstein or whoever it is. Bring them in, have them sit down and have a conversation, and be able to ask the tough questions. And I remember we had a gentleman, his name is Pedro. He lost his arms and his legs due to septic when he was 18 years old, and we were having dinner one night. We were sitting there, and you can during this time you can ask him any question you want. And so I asked him, I said, if you could have two limbs back, an arm and a leg, 2 arms or 2 legs back, which would you want? And he goes, none. I said, you wouldn't want any back? He says, no, because not having them has made me who I am, and I really like who I am. Guys, when you get to that point in your life where you're surrounding yourself with people like that, life plays a different game, whether you like it or not. And the bottom line is you can't help but grow when you're surrounding yourself with people like that.
I met Jarek Robbins and his beautiful wife, Peace, Love, and Gummy Worms. I met them at a Tony Robbins event, and he's incredibly inspirational. He's just like his father.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Amazing. So speaking about public speakers, you are also a public speaker. You go out, I guess, prior to COVID. Tell us about that experience and what you talk about, and what is a successful speaking engagement for you?
It's interesting because that started at 15 too. At 15, July 19, 1979, I was at a youth camp, and I remember just feeling this overwhelming calling on my life that my voice, or who I am, was meant to encourage, support, whatever it is, challenge, inspire. And so at 15, July 19, 1979, I said, I'm in. And that night I went to a youth camp, one of the youth leaders, and I said, hey, you have a cabin of, 8 or 10 people or 50, can I come and speak? And he goes, what do you speak on? I said, I have no idea, but this is, I feel like this is my calling.
Yeah.
And he goes, sure, open the door and let me come in and speak. And ever since then, so I've been speaking since 15. I've spoken in a lot of different places, a lot of different venues. And the biggest thing for me was the message. So when I think about a speaking event, a successful speaking event, I look at the method, the message, and the messenger. What's the method that I'm using? Is it going to be a platform like this, or is it going to be a platform, in an audience, a live audience, or a small group? The message, what's my message? And then the messenger, how am I going to show up? And then from that, I also look at these 3 things and I say, what do I want the audience to think? And then what do I want the audience to feel? And then what do I want the audience to do? And then I craft my message to get the audience to think that way, to feel that way, and to do this particular action. So a successful speaking engagement to me is when I've connected with the audience to such a point that they say, I want to do something different in my life, whether it's personally or professionally, and they take immediate action. That's a successful audience to me, or a successful engagement.
I love it. Oh my gosh, we have a similar background in that I gave my first talk at my youth group. I love it. And it was wild because it was the first time I told the story of my mom being bipolar. And the message was, you never know what people are dealing with at home. So just be nice. And I'll never forget it. Just like you, I got like instantly connected. And like, of course, like it took 40 some years for me to land on the TED stage, but I did. And I think the seed gets planted when we're young, like, oh, well, this is, maybe it's where I should be moving toward.
Right.
So, yeah. So what else? So let's say you have everythingnextlevel.com. What are you up to with that? And how do people connect with you? Just through your website?
Yeah, everythingnextlevel.com is a great place. Or you can shoot me a text at 949-542-6398. I'll be more than happy to respond to that as well. But Everything Next Level is exactly what it sounds like. It's just, no matter what you're doing in your life, what if you could just raise it up a next level? What if you could just set the stage a little bit differently? And everyone gets in this misconception about next level always meaning up. The next level might be, I've got clients that their biggest next level is liquidating their assets and leaving a legacy. So that might be their next level. The next level might be just that they sell everything they own and go get in a van and drive across the country and pursue, something else. I think the key is to not define what next level is, but what next level is for you. And then do that. So Everything Next Level is really designed for that. We've got courses, we've got online platforms. And really, coaching is probably about 10 to 20% of the business. The rest of it's really about opportunities to grow. And, the last couple of years, I've spent a lot of time going out and supporting our law enforcement and first responders, going to the last 3 or 4 years, going to places like Vegas after the shooting there, or Saugus High School after that shooting, or Walmart, different places, and just going and supporting and being part of the solution, part of the environment that helps people. And one of the biggest things I think when I'm doing something like that is that's my contribution, that's my gift back. And so I've gotten to do a lot more of that in the last year and a half because of the speaking engagements. But it always comes with a price. People, well, Bob, I want to be able to do it. Well, you can, but it's going to come at a price, guys. It's not free, and you don't get paid for it. So you better figure out another method to do it. So but again, for me, that's the next level. I would rather go speak to law enforcement or go to Italy and Germany, like I did a couple of years ago, to speak to the military. I'd rather do that than anything else. So that'd be more of my passion, but it's something that I'm able to do and give back, and also extreme learning. And again, one of those things that the environment that I put myself in is the ability to learn. And it's an amazing opportunity when you do it.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. So I was just going to ask you, do you have any final words of wisdom as we start to wrap up? This time together is just like flown by. I don't know where it went. Anything you want to leave the audience with? Yeah.
I think one of the next level pillars says that, well, let me think about that one, because I think in this environment, one of the pillars says unfulfilled expectations lead to anger, bitterness, resentment, frustration, and overwhelm. Let me say that again. Unfulfilled expectations lead to anger, bitterness, resentment, frustration, and overwhelm. And I think right now there's a lot of people that are feeling any one or all of those emotions. And so what I'd ask you to do is think about this and say, what is it that I was expecting that didn't happen? Anytime you get angry, anytime you feel depressed, all you have to say is, what was that I was expecting that didn't occur? When you start analyzing what didn't occur, what you were expecting, then you can say, okay, can I change my expectation? And I'm not one that says settle for less. I'm one that says increase your expectation, raise the bar for the expectation of yourself and the expectation of others. But the bottom line is, when we get to that point where we can really evaluate why we're feeling the way we are, it's a game changer, because then we can know if we're feeling that way because of this, then we can shift and make us feel differently.
So good. So good. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's so important, because you're right. I mean, the book by Byron Katie, Loving What Is, I talk about this book all the time, because the big eye opener for me was very similar. If you resist your reality, you create your own upset. And it's just so powerful. So I love the conversation about expectations, right? Like, it's so basic, but so powerful. So
very basic, yeah.
Thank you so much, Bob, for being here, for sharing everything you shared.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and continued success on your show, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. And we will stay in touch. I love the work you're doing. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.